Okay, here we go. We are going to do the TryHackMe network services module today. This is one of the introductory modules. I've done the first couple of tasks because they're mostly read-only tasks, so this is just a get connected and kind of introduction to the task. I'm not going to waste your time by reading these types of things. So you can read through them yourself. If you haven't subscribed to TryHackMe, you could just kind of pause the screen right now and read this. Same thing with this one. But if you have subscribed to TryHackMe, just take your time and go through it and click on the different links if you want to, and so on and so forth. But the first few tasks of this module, of the network services module, are going to be around the NFS system, which is the network file system, and exploiting it. So enumerating the NFS system and exploiting the NFS system. You don't need to know the nitty gritty, as they also explain themselves. You don't need to really know exactly how this whole thing works. You just need to know enough to understand how it works and to be able to enumerate it and exploit it, hack into it. One of the key things right here is that if someone wants to access a file using NFS, an RPC call is placed to the NFS the NFS daemon, on the server. And this call takes parameters such as the file handle, so basically the file name, the name of the file to be accessed, and the user's ID and the group ID. And so what runs on NFS is basically every system, so a non-Windows or Windows system, and anything like Linux, Mac OS, Unix, and everything like that. So some of the first few questions right here, and we'll just go through these together because they're just read-only. So it says, what does NFS stand for? It's the network file system. What process allows the NFS client to interact with a remote directory as though it was a physical device? And it's called mounting. And we're going to mount a couple of shares and things like that in a later task. I think it's the very next task. And what does NFS use to represent files and directories on the server? It's the file handle. What protocol does NFS use to communicate between the server and the client? It's RPC. And what two pieces of user data does the NFS server take as parameters for controlling user permissions? And that would be the user ID and the group ID. And this is all stuff that literally we just read right now. And so can a Windows system use NFS? Yes. Can Linux use NFS? Yes. What is the latest version of NFS? Excuse me. And I did a little bit of Googling, and it's not hard to do. And the latest version is 4.2. Okay, so these are these questions right here. So now, going into the enumeration part, and this I'm gonna try not to reveal the answers, and we're gonna work through the answers together. Or at least I'm gonna show you how to get to the answers, because it's a pretty lengthy process. But as soon as you open this, you gotta start the machine. Sorry if you guys hear background noise. I don't know what they're doing down the street, but it's pretty loud. So we're gonna start the machine, and we also need to start the attack box. And so basically what the green button right here does is it starts the virtual machine that we're going to be exploiting and hacking into, and then the attack box gives us an Ubuntu Linux virtual machine that we're going to use as our attack box to hack into the NFS server, the NFS machine. And so I'm just going to kind of let this run while we read through some of this information, because it does take a minute for it to come up. And I'm just going to exit this split view so we can get better access to this information. And so what is enumeration? Basically, it's a process which establishes an active connection to the target to discover potential attack vectors in the system, and the same can be used for further exploitation of the system. The requirements for this particular task is NFS Common, which is very important. And NFS Common is a package that includes programs such as lockd, statd, showmount, NFS stat, GSD, IP map or ID mapd, and mount NFS, which we're going to be using. And we're mostly concerned for this task with showmount and mount NFS, and it's going to teach us how to use those things specifically. And then it says you can install it if you don't have it on your machine using this command, which is sudo. Oh, I can zoom in. Okay, great. Sudo apt install NFS common, and you can install the NFS common to your machine so that you can use all these different things that we're going to be using. The first part of the lab, or the first part of this task specifically, we have to do a port scan. And it recommends that we use Nmap. You can do essentially whatever port scan you want, but the one that we're going to be using for this lab is Nmap with the -A tag and the -P- tag. And so the -A is, as kind of the letter implies, is that we're going to scan for everything. So we're going to scan for all to get the port name, the services, all of that stuff on it. And then the -P- tag means all ports. So if you did -P and then 80, 443, 21, etc., you're going to be scanning those specific tags. So if you do just one -P, you can imply after or declare after that which tags or which ports you want to run. But when you do -P-, that means you're going to run a scan against all of the ports. And we're doing this because we need to discover where the NFS ports are located, because they're going to be using uncommon ports to store those things. And when you do an all port scan on Nmap, it takes a quick minute. And when I say quick minute, I'm literally saying it takes at least an hour. That's how long it took for me anyways when I ran this lab. So I'm going to run it in one terminal, and then in the second terminal, we're going to do the rest of the actions. And then we're going to kind of just skip to the end as if the scan was completed, and I'm going to tell you what I found and so on and so forth, right? So that is that. And so mounting NFS shares is going to be done with this command right here. So sudo mount -T is for type, and we're going to do NFS. So the type is going to be an NFS mount, and it's going to give us the IP address, which it already declared for us at the top, and the name of this share, and we're going to discover what that is in a little bit. And this is going to be the temporary folder that we're going to download that share file into. And essentially, anytime that you do something like mount, you need to have a directory dedicated to it, because it's going to download presumably a bunch of things, or at the very least one directory that has a bunch of things in it, so on and so forth. So you need to dedicate a specific directory for it, and then no lock, because we want to use no NLM locking. And so this is basically what all of those things are. And so right below this is where the questions are going to be. So I'm not going to go down there because I don't want to reveal the answers to you yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to show our split view, and hopefully our machine has loaded by now, and it seems that it has. So we're just going to go full screen on this and pull this out and go full screen on here. So we have our and they still have their Christmas Christmas decorations up. So here we go. All right, so we're gonna go one at a time, right? So the first one says conduct a thorough port scan of your choosing how many ports are open. So we're gonna open up terminal real quick, and we're gonna do our Nmap scan, right? Nmap, let me make sure my Bluetooth, there we go. Nmap -A -P and we need our IP address right here, which is this thing. And so we're gonna use this IP address. And a good practice for Nmap is always to do VV, which means verbosity or verbosity, basically. When you do one V, it's verbose. When you do two Vs, it's super verbose. And what that means is when you press enter, instead of all of these things happening in the background without you getting any updates, you get all the updates live, right, as it's happening. So it's telling us what it's doing right here, and then it's already discovered 3 ports for us, right? So port 111, port 22, and 37,033. And this is gonna go for a minute because we're doing all ports. So this is gonna take a sweet minute. But then this is also another reason why I like doing -VV, because as it does the update on the time right here, so it says right here, 13% done. Estimated time remaining, or estimated time to completion, is basically 1 minute, which is not true at all. It's going to be, or excuse me, I'm sorry. I think this is how long it's taken so far, and time to complete is going to be 3 minutes and 23 seconds, which is not the amount of time. The next update that it gives us this is going to be a much longer time remaining, and then it just keeps increasing. So here we go, 6 minutes 24 seconds is going to be the next time to completion, and then it's going to keep, and it's only done what, 40, not even, what is that, 36, it's done 0.36% completion, and it's already telling us that it's definitely much longer. So I'm just going to let this run, and then we're going to do the second part of these commands. And so I'm going to open up this thing, and just for the interest of user friendliness, I'm going to drag this out to this side, so I have two screens, and then I can kind of read everything as it happens, and I can not worry about you seeing all the answers. So here we go. Okay, so the first question was conduct a port scan. How many ports are open? And then we're going to find out by the time that the Nmap scan is done. The second one is which port contains the service that we're looking to enumerate, which is the NFS service, and we're going to get that information when the port scan is done. Then it says use this command, which I'm going to type in here. So user sbin, where are you typing? Here we go. There you go. User sbin, what is it? User sbin show mount E and the IP address. Oop, I did not mean to copy that. Here we go. And this is the IP address. So user sbin show mount. So show the mount that is available for us. And as soon as we press enter, boom. So /home is the mount that's available for us. And that's the answer to number 3. So it says use that command that we just did to list the NFS shares. What is the name of the visible share? And the answer to that question is /home. And so now it says time to mount the share on our local machine. And so in order to do that, we have to first create a directory, an empty directory, to mount the share to. And so the recommended, and you could literally do anything for this, but the recommended place that they tell us to do it is in the temp folder. So mkdir is make directory, and that's going to be the temp folder, and we're going to just name our folder mount. And that's our temporary folder that we're gonna download our mount to, or mount our stuff to. So there we go. So that's gonna be our temp directory, and it says now use the mount command that we got earlier, right? So this is the mount command that we had earlier, which is sudo mount type, for T for type, NFS. The IP address is 10.10.11.12.154, and the name of the share we just discovered, which was home. That's it. And we're going to say no lock. And so this should be done pretty quickly as well. Let me just make sure I have the right IP. Yeah. So there you go. Can find in. Okay, so something is wrong. Did I do something wrong? IP share temp mount TNFS sudo mount TNFS IP share temp mount no lock. Can't find it inside of that, which is odd because we just did it. So let's try it again. So we'll just do it again. Sudo mount 10.10.112.154, and it's going to be colon home no lock. Huh. Interesting. So let's see. Sudo mount TNFS. Let's do 10.10.112.154 /home. Maybe that's the issue. Oh, whoops. I forgot something pretty important. Okay, so silly me. Okay, so I have to put the folder that this is supposed to be downloaded into. That's the part that I missed. So sudo mount type NFS, the IP, and the name of the share, and it's going to go into the temp mount folder. There you go. That should be fine. There you go, and it worked. So now if I go to the temp mount folder and list it, boom, we have the file that we downloaded, which is cappuccino, and that's going to be the answer to the next question. So it says use the mount command to mount the NFS to your local machine, change the directory to where you mounted the share, and what is the name of the folder that's inside, which is cappuccino. All right, so great. So now let's look inside the folder. CD cappuccino. And no CD cappuccino. There you go. Great. So if you do ls, nothing shows. So this is what we have to do. ls, and ls stands for list, right? La. There you go. Now we have everything here. So these are a bunch of things that are inside the file or the folder. And the ones that are in blue right here are different folders that we can go into. And so the next question, it says look inside the directory. Looks like we're inside a user's home directory. That's great. Now it says let's do a bit of research. Have a look through the folders. Which of the folders could contain keys that could give us remote access to the server? So we're going to do CD cache. What's inside the cache? Legal, displayed, manual, something timed down, or most. What does MOTD stand for? I forgot. Something timed down. Most allowed time, some shit like that. if you know the answer to that, drop it in the comments. But I know it's something timed down. So that's not it. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna do CD. And I know the answer to this because I already got the answer, but I just want to kind of give you the process of doing this. And so private keys. Okay, maybe this is it, right? CD private keys. ls. Nope, there's nothing in here. lsla. Nope, there's nothing in here. Okay, so that's not it. That's kind of misleading. So we're gonna go back one more, and we're going to go to the last folder here and do ls. Look at that. So IDRSA, that's a name, a traditional name for a file that holds keys. And so just so you could see what it actually is, if we do nano IDRSA, you open that up and boom, look at that. That's a key. This is the private key, right? So there's, I mean, it's really not legible. It's almost impossible to understand what all of this says. So I'm not gonna try to break it down, or I really can't even break it down if I wanted to. But the next one is the authorized keys, right? So if we did nano authorized keys, it shows us this thing. And so SSH RSA, bunch of stuff. And ooh, look at that. At the very end of this thing, there's cappuccino at Polo NFS. And that looks like a username at a domain. Okay, interesting. So cappuccino at Polo NFS. We're going to keep that in mind. Can we close that out? There we go. And then let's just do another nano real quick. idrsa.pub for public key. And it looks like the basically same thing. And look, it has the same information at the end. So cappuccino at Polo NFS seems to be an interesting thing for us. So, all right, so it says, interesting, let's do a bit of research. That's the next question. Let's do research, look through the folder. Which of the folders contains keys that could give us remote access to the server? And we already found that, which is the SSH folder here, the directory. So that's the answer for that, or .ssh. And then which of these keys is most useful to us? And this is the actual key that's most useful to us, because it's not the public key. That's the private key that we need to be able to log in as the user that we just found, right? And so it says copy this file to a different location on your local machine and change the permission to 600. And then assuming that we were right about the directory that it is, let's see if this corresponds to the user that we just found, and can we log into the machine using SSH and that key file, right? And so copy is CP ID RSA, and I'm gonna move it to the temp folder basically. So temp mount, and it's gonna be over there. And I'm gonna go back to the temp mount folder, and boom, look, we have our key over there. And so let's SSH into the user, right? So ID RSA. So SSH with that key file, and the username is cappuccino at the IP address, which is 10.10.112.154, and that's it, right? Press enter. Yes, I want to continue. Look at that, we're in here. ls la, boom, same stuff, right? So we were able to secure shell into the remote server. We were able to SSH into the server. And so this is basically all of the questions. We just got to the end of all of the questions for the task that we're on, which is enumerating NFS. And I'm going to bring this back onto the screen just so we can kind of review everything together now. So here it is. So the port scan, it's still running. Where is the port scan? There it is. So let's move this here. The port scan is still running. It still has 36 minutes remaining, but trust me when I tell you that when it's done, it's going to give us 7 open ports. And in which port contains the service that we're looking to enumerate, which is NFS. And so this is the only port that has NFS next to it. And so there you go, 2049, and we already did the user smin show mount of the IP, and it gave us home. We found out that the name of the folder was cappuccino. We found out that the file including the keys is SSH. The name of the file that has the key is RSA. And we tried to secure shell into the machine, and that was doable, and we were able to do it. And so that is actually the end of task 3, which is enumerating NFS. So I'm going to wrap it, and we're going to go into the next recording for exploiting NFS. As you can tell right here, I have not completed this, so we're going to do this one live together. And hopefully it won't take a million years, because we've done most of the reconnaissance and the enumeration already, and it should be fairly easy to complete this one. All right. We're going to wrap this recording, and then we're going to go into the next one.